Hello, everyone, and welcome to another drama and theater video here with Glennon Performing Arts. Once again, I'm Westy, your director of theater, and today we are going to be talking about melodrama. Melodrama is a very classical style of theater in North America. It was very popular in the 1800s. Melodrama presents a sort of theater where you see everything in black and white. It's good versus evil. Everything is exaggerated and simplified to create something very straightforward. To us today, it looks and sounds kind of wacky and strange because we're used to a much more realistic and naturalistic style. But melodrama was all about, well, the drama. I have a little video as an example for you here.
Now for the last time, will you marry me?
For the last time, never, you scoundrel! Where is my hero?
Never fear, my pet. I will save you.
So that little example from the Muppets there is a very good example of melodrama. We see a classic heroine in danger from an evil villain and a hero who's come to rescue her. As she's laying there, she's saying, oh, my hero, where is he? And the villain is saying, you will marry me. And she's like, I will not. The exact same things that would happen in all sorts of melodramatic plays. Melodrama relies a lot on what it calls a classical style, which means that it had a very specific set of movements, actions, and ways of speaking to represent certain things, especially specific emotions. Melodrama relied on body language over spoken words. Let's do a little activity here. How would you represent emotions in your body when you're specifically trying to exaggerate them? Let's start with grief. How would you show an exaggerated grief in your body? Well, in melodrama, how they would have represented grief was with the head down, the shoulders rounded, hands cupping the face, raising the shoulders up and down and having a sobbing noise. Very specifically, when someone went into this position, it meant they were grieving. How would you represent anger in an exaggerated way? Do it. Feel it in your body. See how you would try to show that you're angry if you're specifically exaggerating it. In melodrama, anger very specifically was your hands shoulder high, elbows and eyebrows down towards each other, face tense, and hands in tight fists. This meant anger. Very, very specifically. Somebody did this, you knew they were angry. How would you represent an exaggerated love in your body? Show your love in an exaggerated way. What does it look like? What does it feel like? Well, in melodrama, there were actually two ways of expressing love. One that was considered feminine and one that was considered masculine. One of them, you see the chest held high, right hand across and resting over the heart, and then opening out towards the loved one, expressing your love like this. The other way of expressing love, you see the chest held high, head cocked a little bit to the side, the opposite leg pointing out with your foot forward, hands under the chin, fingers entwined and bent at the first and second knuckles, almost like praying. Then the hand can go towards the loved one with a smile on the face. So we see a feminine type of love reserved and inwards, and we see a masculine kind of love, out and dramatic. But those were very, very specific ways of representing love. Now, I'm going to describe a position, and I want you to move your body into that position and try to guess what emotion it would be. I'm going to describe it using the way they would have shown it in Melodrama. So turn your face slightly towards the right side. Put your right hand to your mouth with your fingers curled, touching the top of the palm. So hand to the mouth with your fingers curled, your face slightly to the right side. What emotion is it? What if we take it a step up and put both hands to the cheeks with the mouth open and eyes wide? Fear, moving into horror. Somebody was afraid, if somebody was horrified. Now, here's another fun little one for you. I'll describe this, and again, you guess what it is. Not necessarily an emotion per se. You have one eyebrow up, the other down, a grimace on the face, and your hands rub together. You might even twiddle your fingers a little bit. Yeah, you're evil. You're evil planning. You're up to something. In fact, we still see that motion and associate that motion with evilness and evil planning to this day, to the point where, well, when you see a little housefly doing this, people joke that they're making some kind of evil scheme. We see those same things from melodrama persisting to our common thoughts and media to this day. Now, melodramatic plots, they all follow the same basis. The idea that good triumphs over evil, that the heroine is good and pure, that the hero is brave and chivalrous. The actors were heavily typecast. They were selected for certain types of roles. It was called a line of business. And they would always play the villain, or always play the hero, or always play the old man, greedy father. In a lot of ways, it actually ended up similar to Commedia dell'arte from a couple of centuries before. Melodrama loved to take these classical inspirations. Along with its very codified and exaggerated physical representations, as we were talking about with the emotions, melodrama also had a very unique way of speaking that was all about emphasis. There were variations of volume and tone that sound very unnatural to us today. I have a few examples for you here. I struck him down. Well, if we're saying that naturally, if a bit dramatically today, I struck him down. I struck him down. But in melodrama, how they would have delivered a line like this, well, in fact, it's quite likely they would have split some single-syllable words into multiple syllables to have this stress or emphasis on them. And they also were quite fond of rolling their R's. So I struck him down becomes I struck him down. Struck. Melodrama really loved to do things like that, even though it's not at all a natural way of speaking. They really loved to draw things out and make exaggerated vowel sounds. A phrase like, how can you be so cruel, becomes, how can you be so cruel? Cruel. So that again, the one-syllable word almost becomes two, and that vowel sound is long and exaggerated. Now, looking at this sentence, I cannot, I would surely die. Try to do it in a way that makes you think of melodrama and the way we've been talking about it. We know that they exaggerate sounds. We know that they put stresses in weird places, sometimes turning single-syllable words into more than one. And, well, another thing to keep in mind is that they put stress on what we might consider the wrong syllable. How would you deliver this line? How would you deliver it naturally? How would you deliver it in a melodramatic style? For me, to deliver it in a melodramatic style, what I would end up saying is, I cannot, I would surely die, with the emphasis on not. Surely die. The most important ideas and thoughts, feelings, the most important feelings in this line. Now it's interesting. At the rise of its popularity, melodrama loved to take inspiration from classical works, classical styles like Shakespeare. So for a very long time, they would use something very similar to the iambic pentameter, meaning the syllables went unstressed, stressed, like a heartbeat, da-dum, 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 which would make this phrase, I cannot, with the can being stressed, because it's the second syllable. Eventually, though, after following the more Shakespearean style of stressed versus unstressed syllables, they kind of threw all of that out the window and decided to just stress anything that would emphasize their point and the emotion that they were trying to convey, which results in phrases and sentences seeming, well, at least a little bit all over the place to our modern sensibilities, which are influenced by realism and naturalism. Also, taking inspiration from Shakespeare, melodrama really loved to use what's called asides, where a character speaks directly to the audience, and all the other characters on stage cannot hear what they're saying. In melodrama, there was a very distinct difference in how they spoke normal lines versus how they spoke for an aside. It was meant to create a feeling of secrecy and a connection between the character and the audience. So, if the hero was there about to save the poor damsel in distress from the villain, he might say something to the villain and then turn to the audience and be like, well, little did he know I was about to do this other thing. Where there's a very distinct difference in between how the hero would speak to the villain and how the hero would turn to speak to the audience to create this feeling of secrecy and connection. Again, it's a heavy inspiration from Shakespeare, who had many asides in his plays. To this day, melodrama affects what we do and what we see. Many parts of it linger in our culture and our media. When there's sarcasm, an exaggeration of emotion, especially in comedy, we see those same melodramatic techniques come back. I'm very certain you've seen in maybe a TikTok or a YouTube video or anything like that, reaction gifs where somebody responds to something that horrifies them by going, even if it's sarcastic or exaggerated. We see those exact same things from melodrama that continue through to this day. We still associate this sort of gesture with being in love. We still associate the fists and eyebrows and things like that with being angry. We still associate those dramatic emphasis of words with somebody trying to, well, be over-emotional to prove a point. Melodrama continues into our culture to this day, no matter how absurd true melodrama might seem to us now. It was very well enjoyed by people of the time, and it remains a very important ancestor of modern acting and many forms of modern media. I encourage you, while you're watching things, to keep an eye out and see what remnants of melodrama might remain. It'll probably surprise you just how much there is. Well, once again, thank you all for watching. I hope you have enjoyed this video and that it's been informative and interesting. Melodrama is something that has interested me for quite a while, so I'm glad to get a chance to share some information about it with all of you. Thank you from all of us here at Glendon Performing Arts. GPA is always glad to have you watching our videos, and I'll hope you tune in for some of our next ones. Next week, Zach is going to be singing some classical songs with you. Thanks. Have a good day. Bye.